Hi, I'm Senior Programmer Jenn Wilson. Welcome to this Film Independent Presents Q&A for the Utopia film We're All Going to the World's Fair by Jane Schoenbrun. Special thanks to our lead sponsor, HIFPA, and our virtual screenings partner, Vision Media. And now please welcome our guests for this Q&A. We're All Going to the World's Fair writer-director Jane Schoenbrun and lead actor Anna Cobb. Welcome. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you so much for having us. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing the movie.
So we have a lot of members at Film Independent who are aspiring filmmakers, actors, etc. I wondered if we could just start our conversation by talking about how each of you got into what you're doing now. Jane, do you want to start by talking about how you became a filmmaker?
Sure. Well, kind of relevant to this specific screening. I worked in film for a long time before I started making films, and my first sort of step into the film industry was at a nonprofit called IFP in New York, which is like at one point a sister organization to Film Independent.
Right. Yeah.
Very, very similar in terms of the work that I was doing. Just sort of for many years, really thought of myself as somebody who was sort of put on this earth to help artists rather than be an artist. And a lot of my 20s were spent kind of like nurturing voices and finding artists who were doing what I thought of as like kind of bold and personal and maybe like language pushing things in the film space in America, which, you know, because of how much of a hold the commercial sort of landscape has on what gets made and what gets seen, was challenging work, as I'm sure, Jen, you can relate to. Yeah, and through that process, just like really learned a lot about myself as a curator, and just like about the types of movies that I was passionate about supporting and the types of artists that I was passionate about supporting. But the thing that was missing for me was the confidence to make work for my own voice. And the reason I think that was missing had a lot to do with my gender transition and sort of working through my personal, I think like World's Fair and really like everything I make from there on is like about the process of opening yourself up and looking shame dead in the eye and learning to find your voice as an artist. In my case, a sort of young artist. In the case of Casey in the film, a legitimately young artist. That's me. How about you, Anna?
Jane, you are young. And I always told Jane, I think that like actually everybody's prime is in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. So I look forward to coming into my prime later on.
I was like, Jane, you're young. You're totally young still in your
You're
50s.
actually in your prime, Jane. I hope you understand that. So you better, take advantage of it right now. But that was really inspiring what you said, Jane, in regards to looking shame in the eye, and I completely agree. I think any artist can come to conclusion that you feel this need to come, together with humanity, and you want to at least understand it a little bit more. For me, I always felt like I didn't want to ever be compartmentalized and being told that I was one thing. It's one of my biggest pet peeves, to be told that I have to show up in the world as one individual thing. And it's one of the reasons why I never wanted to do one job. It's not that other jobs didn't ever interest me, like being a lawyer, for example. I always loved being in debate, but it's just simply, I don't want to have to be lawyer Anna. Being an actress, it gives you this kind of, I suppose, like fantasy in this play world that you can be anything and nobody can ever say who you are, because truly you are everything at once. And if people are honest with themselves, they also are actors in a way, and they have all these components of themselves, and it's refreshing. It's refreshing not to feel like I have to say like, this is just me. And there's a freedom to that, surely.
So my first question is, I saw this when you played in Sundance, and I remember when I was picking out my films, I saw the title of this, and I'm a huge history buff, and wondered if it was a documentary about the World's Fair. Because I used to.
It is.
Yeah, I used to live in Chicago, and the World's Fair of the 1890s was a big thing in Chicago that they still have buildings left over from. So, but I just thought the title of this is so interesting. And I wanted to ask, like, what led you to, I mean, pick the title for the film, but also what led you to write the story?
I mean, they're kind of two separate realms. I feel like I'm always searching for a good title. As I, like as I work and as I write. And in this case, it was definitely one of the last things to come to me. I think with this film especially, but really with like all of my work, I try to both overthink and very purposefully not overthink things like the title of the movie, or in the case of the narrative of the film, like the videos that we see, the name of this role-playing game. Because it's one of the things where, like, if you come up with something too obvious or too thought out, it starts to feel writerly. And if you come up with something too random, it starts to feel random. And especially for like a film about the internet, and that's trying to express through the language of the film kind of like algorithm logic, which I think of as very similar to dream logic. The ways in which the next video that the algorithm chooses for you maybe doesn't have anything on paper to do with the video beforehand, but like it knows, in the same way that your subconscious knows during a dream, like what should happen next. And so I think I was like really, while developing this, which was a very long and slow and deliberate process, trying to sort of like let my brain dream until the right thing popped in. So that's kind of where the World's Fair came from, as the name for the game, and then the title, We're All Going to the World's Fair. Though I had read a book of theory a couple months earlier called Imaginary Futures, which was sort of talking about the ways in which, like, throughout the 20th century, we sort of imagined, our like Jetson style futures through the lens of like the
Right.
World's Fair. The book sort of like uses the World's Fair as like a major device to speak about that. You go to this place and see the future on display, and how we can learn about our present by looking at our ideations about the future. This was super interesting to me, and I think emotionally is in line with what I was trying to explore about the present and this moment in the film. But it really felt right. I also thought there was a deleted scene in the movie where they watch a trailer, a movie trailer for like the bad Hollywood, like sort of, like how they made a Slender Man movie after the Slender Man was a big internet phenomenon. And in the trailer, there was this like evil demon and it's saying like the World's Fair, the World's Fair. And then the like hot teen actor goes, no, it's not, and attacks. And that was sort of like the big pump up trailer moment. I thought there was like a funny pun to be had too. So that's that. And in terms of where the story came from, that's a long one. The internet, loneliness, dysphoria, all of the usual things.
I'm wondering if either one of you had before the movie or have since done any of these like internet challenge games or TikTok challenges or any of the challenges before you embarked on the film. Had you done one before?
Anna,
in real life?
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't try to go on the internet too much. I feel very angry. I don't know. There's something about the internet that puts me in a bad mood. And so I stay far away. I don't have social media. So I didn't know much about it. I had to actually do quite a lot of research. So I'm boring in that regard. I don't know much about it.
We had to kind of teach Anna to use a computer in some ways. Do you remember?
Well, Jane, I know how to use a computer, but perhaps I like I don't know, like I like an ice bucket challenge. That's the one I knew because maybe some people at school were doing it, but I was not silly enough to put ice on my head. I didn't want to do that. So
I was definitely silly enough to do some dumb stuff on the computer as like a little kid, but that was back in like the late 90s, early 2000s before creepypasta was a thing. So for me, it was like just like weird internet forums where I was pretending to be people that I wasn't, and telling stories and like interacting with strangers. And I think a lot of what the film is obliquely sort of ruminating on is, yeah, this idea that as a queer kid who hadn't figured themselves out, and as I think an artist who hadn't figured themselves out, because who has at 14, but especially as like somebody like who didn't have many outlets to express like my weirdness in daylight, how the internet was a strange and complicated like kind of training wheels of creativity and identity play as a teenager.
So let's talk about Anna. Anna, you're phenomenal in this film. And I think this is your first feature.
Yes.
Talk about both Jane and Anna. How did you find each other? And Anna, what made you decide that you wanted to do this part?
Well, I did. I found we're all going to the World's Fair on a casting website. And I just, like kind of you submit an audition, and if the casting directors or directors like you back, they bring you to their office. And that's what happened. I was able to come back to their Brooklyn office, and I brought my mom along, and it's all history from there. And when I was reading the sides and the script, I really appreciated the fact that Casey was somebody who felt like they were somebody that didn't get the light shed on them before. I always think it's much more interesting to show characters that are not a recyclable, over and over and over again. I appreciated the script in general, showing a large span of humanity is like, I think having this difficult time right now. Perhaps I'm speaking for myself, but having this own like out of a body experience, not feeling present within yourself, not feeling like you have to snap your fingers repeatedly over your eyes to feel like you're actually like alive on this planet. That can be a very scary feeling, and it can feel like you're really distant from things. And I'm sure that that's what leads to a lot of people having depression and whatnot. And it just really attracted me because then Casey was just kind of this like epitome of then doing this radical thing, and this kind of even this thing that could maybe cause her pain, like plucking her finger with a needle, just to say, I'm here, I'm alive. It kind of reminds me of the movie The Network. It's like, I'm a human being, god damn it. It's like this like feeling like you're alive, and it just really attracted me. Not a lot of scripts talk about that. I think it's something that people are very hush-hush about. And it's very difficult to make this into a film without it being cheesy, or you're trying to be like, yeah, like relate to me. Jane just effortlessly, because she goes through this and because she felt it, it comes out. And I could feel it. It felt sincere and raw and real. And that's what attracted me so much. It was like a fatal attraction. I was like, this is great.
Jane, what was it that made you know that it was Anna who was going to do this part?
I mean, I looked for a long, long, long time. Yeah, on the other end of that casting call were like many casting calls, many sort of scouts. I went to some dark, deep places looking for someone to play the role. And I think it was such a specific role because I knew like obviously this was a film that we didn't make for much money, and that was part of the development process, was like, all right, I'm going to make a chamber piece because I want to not, I think that I saw so many films in my career at IFP that were like trying to be blockbusters on no money. And I really wanted to make something that was very restrained and both like incredibly ambitious emotionally and creatively, but very like achievable on almost non-existent budget. And so, I sort of settled on this idea of like the internet as boredom, or the internet as like portraiture, the ways in which, like, including right now, we spend so much of our time just like staring at ourselves on a box. And that is this like invisible idea that structures increasingly so much of our day-to-day lives. And we spend like so much of this film just like staring at Anna, and if the person that we're engaging with so much and so deeply like isn't completely charismatic, complicated, transfixing, just fascinating in the way that like a YouTuber that you come across at 3 a.m. and you're just like, is this person fucking with me? Like, what is the deal? Then the film wouldn't work, and I kind of had this instinct that I wanted to avoid. We looked at like actors, like people who had kind of come up as teen actors, and I think you see a lot of folks who are like too used to like how you're supposed to be a teen on television or in a horror movie. And then we looked at a lot of like a lot of like quote unquote non-actors, and the problem there was that you find somebody who has some kind of charisma, but like this is a film that like Anna really carries through like very intensive, ambitious, dramatic moments, where like a lot is resting on her abilities, and most non-actors like can't just switch on that kind of charisma. And so I was just looking for months, and like basically full-time searching, and was like, I'm not making this movie until we find somebody who's like Jennifer Lawrence and Winter's Bone, like, like find a star. And then Anna's tape came in, and it was, or at first I guess I saw just Anna's picture, and I was really struck by like the headshot Anna was using was like this kind of like eerie bathroom selfie that I was just like, oh, that's different. And there's just something very Casey-esque in it. And then Anna's tape came in, and it was just like immediately clear to everyone on the team that this was like the needle in the haystack. Whatever metaphor, like out of all of the people that we had spent months looking for, it was like all of that was to find Anna. All of that was to find this person who not only like understood and fit the role so perfectly, but could like elevate it into like a human being. And so much of the process of making the film with Anna, who is just like the greatest collaborator of all time, so brave and so generous and so sort of just collaborative. It was so much of it was like not just like fitting Anna into the character, but like kind of creating and evolving the character around Anna. And I just, it was a lot of work, and it was worth it.
Yeah, it was. Thank you, Jane. It was worth it.
I wholeheartedly agree. Totally worth it. So you have some big names in the indie world working with you on this film, like Daniel Carbone, Matthew Peacock, and David Lowery, and Theo Anthony, who's a doc filmmaker. Did you know all these filmmakers before? And can you talk about your collaboration with like Daniel in particular as your DP?
Yeah, so I met Dan and Matt, who are both EPs on the film, and really helped us like figure out how to make a movie like adults make movies. Like when Anna talked about going to our production office, that was like Dan and Matt and their producing partner, Zach's office in the Flies Collective. I knew them because I had actually programmed Dan's first film back when I was at IFP about 10 years earlier, a beautiful film called Hide Your Smiling Faces that was very influential on looking at like what people were doing in the indie space that felt like the kind of thing that I would want to do in that space. And I think did I make you watch that movie, Anna? I think I made you watch that movie,
yeah,
right?
It was beautiful.
Tonally just like have always felt a real kinship to Dan's work. And Dan is also just like an incredible visual artist and such a generous collaborator. And I very nervously asked him if he would be down to shoot the film, and having I really think it's like him, Anna, and I think Alex, who did the score for the movie, are like three artists who completely transformed the film in the best possible way that like a great creative collaborator will, where you invite somebody in who is sort of like a fellow traveler creatively, but who can do something that you could never in a million years. And Dan brought like an aesthetic and a gaze to the film that I think is just so rich and important to the movie. David Lowery, I knew I'd programmed a script that he had written, I guess, Ain't Them Body Saints, before that film came out. And David is, at the time, he was living in Austin, Texas, or Dallas. And I really like looked up to David a lot because he was the kind of filmmaker who, even while his career was starting to blossom, was like assistant camera shooting his friends' films down there. And there were like a few years there where every film that came out of Texas, he had some role in, even if that role was like assistant editor or something. And that kind of like generosity, and also like the space that he's carved out for himself as somebody making incredibly ambitious films, but also films that feel personal and surprising consistently. was definitely like he was definitely like a mentor slash person who I was like, there aren't many American filmmakers who I can look at and say, like, especially like young American filmmakers, I want that kind of career. But David's is definitely one that I admire a lot. And I basically just asked him if he'd put his name on the film, because that helps when you're a small movie without big celebrities in it. And he was like, yeah, and he's a sweetie. And Theo Anthony, I knew, through Baltimore friends. And we were trying to figure out who would look good slapping themselves on a treadmill. And I was like, Theo's not only a great documentary filmmaker, he's also super hot. So, let's see if he'll take his shirt off for us.
Did you just call or text him and say, hey, can you slap yourself while you're running on a treadmill for me?
Luckily, Abby, my lovely casting director, who used to live with Theo,
okay.
And I believe she made the actual "Will you slap yourself?" ask, but he was down.
I'm lucky in that I feel like I know a lot of people who would say yes to that, slap themselves on a treadmill if I ever need it. That's fantastic. It's so nice to hear, when indie filmmakers have like, good indie filmmaker karma and want to help other filmmakers out. It's that's very heartening. I feel like we've had a lot of film independent fellows like that too, who are, well, we have a lot of them. We ask a lot of them to mentor up and coming filmmakers as well. And it's nice when people give their time to do that. So
I love a community of filmmakers and artists that I collaborate with. It's like, I'm very collaborative as an artist. I think it's because I kind of like came up as a fan and put away my own work for so long that like I still get giddy about collaborating with people who I admire.
What do the two of you have coming up? Jane, I think are you at work on another feature, shooting another feature, or is it finished?
Anna and I are both killing it. We're both like many projects deep. I shot a new film this summer for A24, which was an amazing experience, and totally different than World's Fair because, bigger budget, different system that you're working within, and trying to make something like just as strange and personal and surprising. And it was an amazing experience. It's called I Saw the TV Glow. Stars Justice Smith and Bridget Lundy Payne and Lindsay Jordan from Snail Mail, and Phoebe Bridgers shows up in it, and Fred Durst is in it from Limp Bizkit. Danielle Deadweiler is in it. It's pretty wild. It's a weird one. I'm really proud of it.
Do you have any idea when it's going to come out? Is that more like 2023?
I think we're talking about 2023. I'm deep in the edit and I'm really, really having fun with it. And trying to just keep making things. It often feels like threading a needle, especially like as budgets grow, to make things that are personal and vulnerable and that like feel like they need to come out. I think I always start from a space of like, what can I try to express that feels like very, very personal, but also like hidden? Like what can I put on the screen that like will maybe articulate something that will mean something to somebody else? And with the first two films, I'm like really proud of that, like Anna was saying, like kind of vulnerable process, and pitching a TV show, and like want to try to do that on bigger levels, but it's definitely a dance.
Yeah.
And Anna can be seen on screens all over the country this winter.
Well, perhaps, yes, I suppose it's November 23rd, I believe. Bones and All by Luca Guadagnino is going to come out. I got to partake in this film. And then also director Catherine Lombardi, the head of John the Baptist. So I did that both last year and this year. So look forward to it, I suppose. And I'm very lucky just to partake in any production, and I really appreciate it. And yes, perhaps I will see in the future if my writing will, like, I'll hit a dart and it'll hit the bullseye. We'll see. Only time will tell.
Are you a writer as well, Anna?
I am a writer. I don't know if I can consider myself a writer until I get some.
No, Anna, you're a writer.
Okay, I'm a writer, but like I maybe in my own little headspace, I'm a writer, but let's see if it goes out properly. We'll see. I think it will. I
Anna's a
manifest.
very talented writer
Thank
who would tell us epic tales that she had written on set.
Thank you. Yeah, it was actually really nice. They listened to my stories. So you know, Jane, I actually completed one already.
Will you send it to me?
Yeah, I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you.
Anna moved to Florida, which is a real heartbreak for those of us in New York. I want Anna to come back to New York so we can cook her dinner and hang out.
Yeah, but Jane, come on now. They call it the sunny state of Florida for a reason. I'm very happy down here. Jane, you ought to come down here, and it's
I'll
cold.
come down to Florida.
You come down to Florida. Come down to Florida and have some like good s'mores and let's just relax. You know what I
You
mean?
have
Go down to
s'mores
Florida
down
and
there?
have some s'mores.
Yeah, let's
Alright.
just do some
Fun.
s'mores,
You
everybody.
know exactly what to say is s'mores.
I just
Well, thank you so much, you two, for talking
you.
to me. I love it when I get to interview people that love each other so much and
Yeah.
just
We
are
changed
happy.
each other's lives, Anna. It was
Yeah,
the best collaboration, and I can't wait for the next one.
I can feel that, and it's really special, and I'm really
Thank you.
happy.
God bless you.
So congratulations to the both of you on this film, and I'm looking forward to your new films coming out, and I hope when your new things come out, I'll get to talk to you again.
Yeah, and I hope to talk to you again. And thank you so much. I appreciate all your time consideration. You're so kind, and this was
Yeah.
really lovely. Thank you.
Thanks,
Sure, no
Jenn.
problem. It was
Thank
great to
you,
meet. It was great
Film
to meet you both.
Independent, for supporting
Thank you.
weird little films like ours.